A very good morning. This is Dr. Neha Dubey. I am again here with the managerial economics topic. And that is the topic is inflation part 2. Previously, I have defined what is inflation, how we can calculate in an easiest way what is with the examples of our purchasing power ability. We have discussed the inflation and the one of the important indices, that is the WPI, we already discussed here. Today, I will define the inflation with the help of the next one is the CPI indices. So let's start with this. Inflation at a consumer price index. What is consumer price index? Here, it is the who is going to be calculated here? The consumer or the retailer, the final price at which the consumer is able to get that particular commodity or product. That is the consumer price. Okay, so the consumer price index is one of the important indices which I have considered for calculating the inflation. So India, the index that shows the rate at the retail level is known as the consumer price index. The consumer price index is a statistic used to assess changes in the average price level of the goods and services purchased by a household over time. It is widely used economic statistic that helps assess the inflation and the cost of living. The CPI baskets comprises of 448 items in a rural and the 460 items in the urban. There are the 4 consumer price indices in the economy, each covering a different socio-economic group. The Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers, CPI-IW, Consumer Price Index for Agricultural Laborers, that is CPI-AL, Consumer Price Index for Rural Laborers, CPI-RL, Consumer Price Index for Urban Non-Manual Employees, that is UNM. CPI is now using a new series based on the base year 2012 that is considered to be 100 for all of India as well as states, union territories separately for a rural, urban and combined. Consumer price indices are published by the Central Statistics Office, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So what is the headline inflation versus the core inflation? Now let's focus on a two important term, that is headline and the core inflation. Headline inflation, it is the measure of a total inflation within an economy. It includes price rises in a food, fuel and all other commodities. The rate expressed in a wholesale price index usually denotes the headline inflation, though the consumer price index values are often higher. WPI values traditionally make headlines. Now the core inflation, underline or the non-food inflation. It is also a term used to denote the extent of inflation in an economy, but it does not consider the inflation in a food and fuel. This is a concept derived from the headline inflation. There is no index for direct measurement of a core inflation, and now it is measured by the excluding food and fuel items from wholesale price index or consumer price index. Now, what are the causes of inflation? There can be two sets of a factor that can cause the inflation in economies, that they are the demand pull and the cost push. Demand pull factors rise in the population, where if any economy or the country's population is going to be extremely high, so definitely to fulfill or for the survival of that population, the demand has to be high. And for fulfilling that demand, we need to, or the producer need to be produce more and more quantity for supplying that needs. Fine. So demand pull factor, if the manufacturer or the country is unable to fulfill that demand via giving the supply, so there is a chances of a price hike. Black money, this is the important one, that is the black money. Black money is considered as the storage income, and on that basis, the income has to be arise or the price level will be high. Rise in income, definitely if the rise is in income of employees is there, so the consumer is now there is no chance of a bargaining. They are able to buy, but because of the higher income, they are able to buy certain commodity at the giving prices. So the chances of a demand pull factor or the price hike. Now the excessive government expenditure, if the government are expenditure giving the in an excessively manner, so there is a lack in a government stuff, that is the income is decreasing of the government. So of course the price level is going to be high. Now the cost to push factors are infrastructure bottlenecks lead rise in the production and the distribution cost. Infrastructure's problems may create the increase in the production and distribution cost, rise in the minimum support price. The minimum support price of any industry or the commodity, if it can be increased, so definitely the price can be high. Rise in the international prices, hoardings and the black marketing. This will again create the increasing cost, and ultimately if the cost is increasing, so definitely the prices can be high. And rise in the indirect taxes. So these are the some causes. What measures can be taken for this? Both the government and the central bank, that is RBI or the Reserve Bank of India, try to tackle inflation with their policies, which are known as a fiscal and the monetary policies respectively. Fiscal policy corresponds to the tax-related measures taken by the government to control inflation, that is the money supply, and RBI through its various monetary policies limits the money supply by altering rates like CRR, repo, reverse repo, etc. These ratios and the monetary policy or the fiscal policy I discussed in a separate video. Now, the administrative measures taken by the government, like the strengthening of the public distribution system, also play a crucial role in curbing the inflation. So there is I have taken the certain table from the internet, that is the comparison between the CPI and WPI for easily understand. So here I am going to give you the quick review of the CPI and the WPI. The meaning of CPI, it reflects the average change in the price paid by the consumer at the retail level, okay? And in a WPI, it is at the wholesale price level for the goods sold in a bulk, published by NSO, and WPI is published by the Office of Economic Advisory. Base year for both the years 2012. Frequency of publishing, CPI has to be published monthly, that is 14th of every month, and the WPI primary articles, fuel, power, or on a weekly basis, generally Thursdays, and overall indices on the monthly basis. Now, the source, the CPI item weights are based on the average household expenditure gathered from the consumer expenditure survey, and the WPI item weights are based on the production values. Measured at the CPI final stage of a transaction, and WPI first stage of a transactions. Price paid by the CPI, of course, we are talking about the consumer price index. We are talking about the final price at which the consumer is taking that particular commodity on hand by paying certain amount. So that is definitely price paid by the consumer. Now the wholesale dealers or the manufacturers, they are paying in a WPI zone. Number of items, 448 items in a rural basket and 460 items in a urban, and whereas in a WPI 697, including the primary, fuel and power and manufactured products. Weightage of a food items, the food group has a weight of 39.06% in a CPI, whereas in a WPI, the food group of food articles account for the 24.4% of a total weight. Status of service, the services are included in CPI like house, education, medical care, etc. And services are not included in a WPI. Now the commodities included, the education, communications, foods, clothing, foods, beverages, housing, and the medical care. And in a WPI, mineral, farm, machinery, basic metals, and the other manufacturing inputs and intermediary items, etc. So thank you for today's session. And this is all about the CPI. And in our next video lectures, we will discuss in a detail, that is the monetary policies, the instruments of a monetary policy, and the fiscal policy. So thank you for listening me patiently. If you like view and like my video, so please comment on the link given. So thank you very much.